Hey yo, Natsu here. First time in a while, 2 months and a half I think. As you can see from the title, this is going to be a new what if. What if Deku wasn't danmachi with the 7 deadly sins skills? To be precise, each skills will basically be its own thing with an extra skill that is added to it with this when he obtains the skill. Another thing will be Deku will have a specific title that I will not reveal until later in the series, but this title actually lets him grow on his own without the help of a goddess, as well as allows him to learn the 7 deadly sin skills and a few other things that will be hidden for now. So, in this, Deku will die, obviously. So, Deku is born in My Hero Academia, quirkless like always, and will actually be pretty much bullied the same. In fact, his entire life is basically identical, except that at some times in his lives he's a bit more angry or prideful, that he can still be a hero if he wants to. He just needs to do something about it. But never trains or anything, so yeah, kind of isn't on a good start. So, the point where the story changed is actually at the sludge villain. Yeah, All Might didn't make it in time. Deku actually suffocated. So, dying in the process, with All Might actually just being there in time to get a corpse of Deku. His mom is sad, Bakugo is shocked, because obviously, even if he was quirkless, yeah, it was still Deku, which, if I remember correctly, Bakugo started bullying him at first, specifically to try and get him out of that mindset, not to be mean, specifically. Yeah, he was still looking down on him, but he was doing it more just to help him. Later, it just became anger that he wanted to push on Deku because, obviously he didn't give up, which basically just made Bakugo think, this guy's crazy, this guy's weak, for real. So yeah, but it was still his friend, so he was still a bit sad, even though he didn't want to show it. But for Deku, the story doesn't end there. Deku basically woke up in the middle of a forest, and in the distance he was able to see basically a long tower going up to the sky. Deku didn't understand at all why he was there, or how he got there, to be exact. So, he decided to go towards it, thinking, if there's something like that, it must be human-made. So there must be people. I don't know if I said it right now, but this is my second try at this recording, and compared to the first one where I was inside, I'm outside right now. So yeah, sometimes I'm going to pause because people are going to walk by. So there's also might be sounds around, so yeah. Be right back. Someone on a bike just passed. Didn't want to look crazy a bit. But yeah, so Deku basically decided to go there. obviously, since he is in Danmachi, that place is... I never can pronounce the name, but basically the town where Bel, Ainz, Loki, Hestia, and everyone is. So, Deku basically tries to go there. Though, because he's basically in the middle of the wood and only sees a tower poking, well, he needs to go there. One thing Deku remarks while going there is that he has a lot more stamina than usual, and he's walking a lot faster. What's going on there is basically his natural growth capacity from the title he got. Even though he doesn't know that, in that world normally there are people with stats that are given by goddesses, and well, gods and goddesses. But compared to everyone else, he already has those that are activated. And he basically grows naturally, and pretty fast as well. Since he doesn't need to go back to a god to get his status updated. Well, for now, he won't have one. But yeah, basically, he is growing near constantly. Yes, it's not like, oh, one step, he gains a stat point. But he does grow over time when he exerts himself. Like, in that moment, he's basically jogging now, thinking that he has a lot more energy. It's interesting. It's fascinating. As if when he was almost killed, because he doesn't know he actually died, his quirk might have awakened. And right now, he's feeling it. It might be something like a physical boost type quirk. And so he wants to test it out. First, he decides to stop and try to punch a tree. Which hurts. Because, obviously, yeah, his body did increase in stat the moment he was sent there, but not to the point of being superhuman. He just got to the point where, oh yeah, he's a bit stronger than a normal human from that world. Those who don't have a blessing and such, so he is a bit stronger. Deku tries to see if he can lift stuff that have a lot of weight, and tries with rocks. He sees that, yeah, he can lift a pretty heavy rock, but it's not that big. Like, I'm trying to think the size that he could have, but I don't really have anything. Since in my scripts it's just, he lifted a rock to see how strong he was, and yeah, he was pretty strong. But yeah, basically, Deku's stats, which I'm not going to reveal right now because anyway it would be useless, since also, compared to other people, he cannot level up right now. Because, well, the system sees the level ups as, oh, you achieved something that is surprising. So, like Bell killing a Minotaur while he was still level 1. That's impressive. So, like Bell, Deku's stat doesn't end at 999 skill level S. He can also go into the double S, triple S, or further if he doesn't actually if he does increase his stat up to there without leveling up. For sure, over time, it's going to be a bit harder since the best way to increase stats is to be in battle. But his body basically builds up stamina naturally over time. I don't know if you can hear this, but damn, there's a lot of noise. So, over time, Deku basically makes his way there. But while going, he actually hears screaming. And basically goes to see what's going on. He sees a woman and a child being attacked by a dog-looking thing, which is Deku doesn't actually recognize as an animal, so he's not sure. He thinks that, oh, it has a quirk, but he wants to help, and he basically thinks, I'm stronger right now, maybe I can help. So he basically looks around and grabs a rock and basically just throws it as hard as he can towards the dog-looking thing and hits it right in the head. The two people are weaker than normal people, since it's basically a weak-looking woman and a child. But when they saw the rock basically hit the wolf, and nearly explode on contact, with the dog basically losing an eye, they looked towards where the rock came from and just saw a boy that looked 15. The wolf also turned his head, seeing the boy, and going straight for him. Deku basically just freaks out, firstly, and then just starts running. The wolf going after him. The woman and the kid basically starts running in another direction, which is basically a small village, to basically say that, oh yeah, they were attacked. With Deku basically just kind of running towards where he remembers there was the big rock. Basically the wolf chasing him and catching up. So Deku basically, when coming close to the rock, well, not the same rock because it's been a while, but another rock basically that looked big enough, he basically went towards a tree, grabbed it, and basically turned, making the wolf go forward before turning, because it's a bit harder for them, depending on how they did. But basically the wolf was jumping to try and get to Deku. Deku changed directions, making it extremely hard for the wolf to just follow while in the air. And basically Deku jumped on the rock, grabbed it, and while the wolf was jumping back towards him, he just turned around and basically chucked it directly at its head, once again. And the wolf basically getting his head smashed. The wolf died, obviously, since no head means dead. And Deku suddenly felt a bit of power surging in him. With his strength stats, agility stats, stamina stats, and those types basically increasing because, well, he killed a monster. And exhausted himself in the process as well. Deku wasn't that hurt, but he did run through a forest for a while, trying to escape the wolf, and being exhausted after that, so he started walking back, with people basically going towards where the wolf was, because basically the woman and the child told about the wolf and someone saving them, having weird clothes on him. Since Deku basically had the same clothes he had on, he didn't have his backpack though, so he didn't have anything on him to chuck, well, to throw at the wolf. So that's why rocks. So basically, they talked about a kid that looked 15 that basically lured the wolf away, and they were going to try and help if he was still alive, or at the minimum kill the wolf. When they saw him coming back, exhausted and tattered, they asked him if he was alright and where the wolf was, with him saying that he killed it and that it's further away. They basically went to check with some people bringing him back to the village to basically help him because, well, obviously he looked hurt, even though he didn't get attacked directly by the wolf, which it was lucky for him. So they asked him where he came from, since they never saw him around, and that his clothes were weird. And that's the first moment he learned that, he's most likely not in his world. Since when he asked about Japan, they didn't know where that was. So he basically started to ask about the region, saying that he kind of doesn't come from around here and basically was sent here against his will, kind of. So, just a sec, I think there's people coming. Yeah, I'm going to turn around and just walk back this way I came. That just means for you a longer video, so win-win, I guess. But yeah, so basically he asked about the region and basically if there's any big city around, since he didn't know anything about the area, like I said, being forced there. All they thought was, okay, so he was most likely a new adventurer or something and kind of got caught in something he shouldn't have. And most likely some magic from someone who had a blessing, most likely teleportation magic, just sent him somewhere, or his memory was altered. That's basically what they're thinking, because Japan, what the fuck is that? Quirks? I don't know what that is. So, yeah. They basically chalked it to either he comes from another continent or something, where basically someone hit him with a teleportation, or he comes from not that far and basically got his brain scrambled. So they basically explain a bit about, around, and explained about monsters and stuff. They ask him if he has money at least, which he doesn't. So someone basically tells him, well, you slayed the wolf, so its part should be yours. But if you don't have anything that you can do with it right now, we can buy it and give you the money for it. Which Deku accepted because, well, obviously he doesn't have money and he needs to learn about it. And so they basically give him, dials, or dials. Don't remember how it's pronounced. But yeah, so they gave him cash for the wolf, as well as new clothes, because obviously he's not going to be able to wear those for a long time anyway. They tell him he can rest there for a while, because he's hurt. And then that they can point him to Aurelio, or whatever it's pronounced. So he rests there a few days, helps with things around, like farming and such. Sorry about that. And over time basically gets a small strength boost from doing works and stuff. So basically having the self-growth thing basically works in his favor for everything. So, when it's time for him to leave, people still thanks him because, well, he helped with the work around the village. And someone decide to tell him that, yeah, since he's going to, well, be by himself for a while, he should have a weapon. Which they decide to give him a dagger that was forged with some of the bones from the wolf. They told him that it's not that powerful, but it should do the trick for weak monsters around that part. So Deku took it, was thankful, and started going. Obviously, from learning that adventurers, gods, and stuff exist, since they basically didn't take any chances. So Deku knew that, yeah, at least having a dagger or a knife could be a good idea when facing monsters. So he accepted gratefully. Going towards the town now, well, city, Deku didn't run into that many monsters. For sure, he had food now, so he could take that, and basically he was sleeping in trees and such, hoping not to get caught by anything. So, a few days later, he finally came out of the forest. Since, yes, he was in the right direction, but he didn't run all the way. And since he wasn't in a carriage or something, it was a bit long. So, when finally reaching, well, the town of Aurelio, first the guard asked him who he was, which he said he was a traveler who basically came from far. They told him that if he wants to enter, he needs to pay the tax, because I'm pretty sure there's one, and allowed him to enter. He was told about a few things, like the dungeons and such, about, well, from in the city, like, if you want cash and that you're an adventurer, go there, because, well, they saw he was first alone and had a dagger. Which means, yeah, if he meets monsters, he needs to be able to defend himself. So, he went in. The first thing I have to say about the time where he arrives in this world is that he is 1 year early from when the anime starts. So, Belle isn't there yet. In fact, to be precise, he is 1 year before the last festival of Monster Philia, where they bring monsters from the dungeon outside. So, he was going through the city, saw that there was the festival, and he went towards it. After a bit of going there, he didn't even have time to get in said festival when he heard screams, with many people basically getting out of the streets, with basically others screaming that some monsters have escaped. This time not because of Freya or anything like that, it was literally just an accident. So, Deku was trying to find a place to hide, and kinda had trouble with that. He then saw some people running, something being thrown at those people, and one of them being stuck under debris from it. He went straight there to help the person basically leave, and then looked at the monster and basically saw that, yeah, no, the person would not be able to escape. And so he decided that, look, I already fought a monster. It didn't seem that bad, and I feel stronger than before. So, I'll try against that one. Deku went straight towards it, with people being afraid for him. And basically Deku started trying to fight it, which backfired a lot. Well, kind of. The monster didn't have any weapon, and it was a beast-type monster that kind of wasn't going to be that strong against normal people. It was the fire wolf who basically just to throw whatever it threw at the other people, basically just ran straight into it and basically pushing it away as far as he could. Not because he wanted to, more by accident, since its mouth is basically clamped shut by a harness. Since obviously he was still in his cage, so to make sure he couldn't attack anyone, it didn't have that. So Deku won't be attacked by fire, but he still has to deal with a fucking fire wolf. Sorry about that. But yeah, so obviously it's going to take a bit of time for him to fight. There are already other people basically fighting against other monsters, but one person in particular is around the area where Deku is, and basically they see him fight. First of all, Deku tried to fight with his knife and was able to do a bit of damage to him over time, escaping the attacks and such, moving out of the way. That person that was looking at him do that was a receptionist for, well, the dungeon. Obviously, well, for the guild, but whatever. Obviously, it's not the elf. Because if not, well, there's going to be a few things in the story that wouldn't actually make sense. So, anyway, for now, they basically see him fight. She sees that, yeah, he is not that strong or anything, but he's able to fight quite well, even though all he has going for him is speed. Though she finds it strange, since he's fighting like that and has a small knife, but he doesn't seem to be an adventurer, actually. In fact, it seems weird, because he doesn't even seem to be capable of fighting correctly. Yes, he's able to do a lot of damage to the wolf right now, kind of. But it's more luck than anything else, with his speed basically allowing him to move out of the way. Though at one point the wolf does use its claw to basically scratch Deku, and his bag basically gets revealed. And she remarks one thing that is actually pretty strange. He doesn't have the tattoo that a god normally gives when giving their blessing. Which means that, yeah, he doesn't have a blessing and yet can still fight like that. Which is quite surprising. At one point, though, his knife breaks. Since it wasn't made super good or to be extremely strong. And that's a lower level, well, for beginners, it's a lower level monster. So, yeah, the knife didn't fare that well. But at the very least, when that was happening, there was already someone else coming to help him. And they were able to basically kill the wolf in a single hit. Even they knew that it would take at least 2 hits for them. Whoop, I've got to pause for a second, since someone else is coming again. So we'll be right back. But yeah, so that person was so impressed that, oh, that kid was able to hurt it pretty well. Even though even the kid looks weak. And shit, I have to pause again. Be right back. Yeah, so the person saw that Deku's, weapon got destroyed. He told him he did well, though, because obviously he fought a monster that, with the amount of power he seems to have, in fact, after seeing that the kid didn't even have a blessing, he was even more surprised that, yeah, you were able to do that. So, he told Deku that if he wanted to be in a familia, he could come looking for him. He might be able to present him to his familia. I'm not saying who it is right now, because, yeah, kind of break the surprise. Anyway, it's going to be a long time before he actually gets into one, so, yeah. That would be even worse. So, when that was done, the person gave Deku a recovery potion, saying that he did a great job, but that he needed to go tell that the wolf was stopped. Deku just thinking, damn, the 2 hardest fights I had were against wolves. One in the forest, and one right here. Basically the 2 only monsters he actually had to face. So yeah, the 2 hardest fight equaling the 2 fight he had, are basically just wolves right now. Though the receptionist did basically catch that, yeah, he was pretty strong, no matter what. And she didn't feel it or whatever, because, well, obviously it's kind of impossible, but Deku's strength still increased at the end of the battle. Not by a lot, once again, like 1 or 2 points of strength only because of killing something. But it was mostly because, yeah, those things were kind of out of his leagues. And the only reason why the first one was able to be killed was because his head was literally smashed between a rock and a tree. Kind of killing it. This one was more luck than anything else, just like the first one, with a touch of someone helping him. But yeah, the receptionist basically went towards him and asked him where he came from, because normally people without a blessing aren't that strong. With Deku basically laughing it off a bit, because he literally doesn't know why he's that strong. Just saying that, well, he trains a lot. With her laughing a bit, and asking him if he would like to actually train. Since, even if the person did say that, oh yeah, I could present you to my familia, which could most likely take you in, he might not actually be taken in if he's too weak. So, if he wants to, she can bring him to the guild and ask someone to train him in battle. Though his knife is broken, so yeah, kind of a little problem there. Though the person did leave him the stone. which he said he could exchange for money at the guild to then buy another one, as well as equipment. Though Deku said that, yeah, he's not sure about that directly. Yeah, it was useful. Don't get me wrong, but he's not sure about actually using that. She says, well, he can train with different weapons and see which one goes best for him. Which he decides to accept, because obviously if he's going to live there, he needs to find a job. He needs to get money. So he decides to do that. She brings him to the guild where someone basically sees him, and he basically fits the description of someone else. Like, a kid saved me and fought the wolf, even though all he had was a small dagger. The kid had green hair and basically describing Deku. So, another receptionist basically said that, hey, he must be the kid who fought the wolf in town, right? So, he won. With Deku saying, well, stalled him to be more precise, someone else killed it, but yeah, I survived. With both receptionists laughing, since obviously. So after a bit, she basically told that, oh yeah, he didn't actually have any training and didn't have a blessing. And that he wasn't sure about getting into a philia yet. But he still wanted training, so she brought him here to basically help him be trained with different weapons before he tries to find one. The other receptionist basically looked at her saying that, well, without being in a philia, he can't actually get cash. With Deku saying that, well, if I can fight, can't I go in the dungeon? With the other one, well, the first one, telling him that it's not normally possible, actually. It's too dangerous. Since... Sorry about that, car. Since... outside, obviously. But yeah, basically she told him that they don't do that because, well, they don't actually want people to die. But the other one told her that, well, if he goes with another party to train, they could weaken a monster, show him the way to fight, and kind of get him to do that on his own. Which was kind of a small idea, just given to her because, just since, oh yeah, he could get acquainted with other groups, which means that he could find, well, get an easier way to get into a philia. So, Deku accepted that. Then, the first one still said he would still need to be trained with weapons before that. Or at least in hand-to-hand if he doesn't actually choose to go into the dungeon. So, basically they decide to find an adventurer who is willing to train him either for a low amount of money or for free, depending. But yeah, someone did decide to point his face there. The person who actually helped Deku at the end to kill the wolf. The person saw that, oh, this kid wants to train. Well, it's true that it could be a good idea since his knife kind of broke. And if he wants to train with different weapons, it would be good for someone who actually wants to help him. He did decide to do it for free, basically deciding that, oh, he's going to help him in the morning, go in the dungeon later, basically do it like that. But one thing that the person realized after a bit is that over the course of the time he trained Deku didn't only get better while fighting with weapons. First, they tried him with a knife, then a rapier, a sword, then they tried a hammer, other things like that he could wield. Hammer was a bit tough since, he didn't have the exact strength to use it. It wasn't a heavy one, but they still tried to train him in that. They trained him in hand-to-hand combat, for if he actually got in fight with other human who tried to fight him and that he didn't want to kill them. And basically, it took around a month or so for them to basically just do the basic for everything. So not directly training him to be perfect, but just the basic. And then they decided to bring him once in the dungeon to try and face a few monsters. At first, another receptionist basically said that it might not be the best idea since he doesn't have a blessing. But the man basically just said he might not have a blessing, but he's strong. Like, I'm impressed about what I'm going to say, but over the month of training that we did, near month of training that they did, Deku did grow in strength. Not that fast though, but still a good rhythm. So his body can get stronger naturally, like normal human. It just seems at a slightly faster pace from what he sees, which basically made that person accept, but only on the first floor. When they get there, he basically shows Deku that they're not that strong for people who are higher level, but for someone like him, especially someone like him who doesn't have a blessing, it might be bad. Basically, Deku had bought a dagger and a sword that he keeps both of them on almost always. The hammer and rapier were basically just taken from someone else temporarily. I'm going to have to pause. I can't. Well, this is going to be part 1.1. I'm going to see you back in a bit for part 1.2. How does that feel? So he just got down in the dungeon and is about to start fighting. Hope you liked it. Natsu, out.